What is up, Bodyweight Warriors, and welcome back to another video. If you're watching on YouTube, you're going to notice that things look a little bit different to how we usually set up things, and that's because there is somewhat of a return of the podcast. Now, in the past, I've done podcasts pretty sporadically. It was more like I wanted to have a conversation with somebody that I was particularly interested in at the time, and that's kind of how I set things up, asked some questions, and that was it. There was no really order to it, but I do really enjoy the podcast format, and especially because here on YouTube I generally try to keep videos around that 10-minute mark. I think it's a nice amount of time that you can set aside to sit down something and condense some information into. But ultimately, because that is a little bit shorter, it means that we don't get to go into the weeds, into the details of things sometimes, which I think is a little bit missed out on, especially on YouTube. It's nice to get some information, but sometimes it's nice to delve into the details, and that's kind of what I want to do. So anyway, today's episode is going to be with the man, the myth, the legend, Daniel Vadnal. Now, this isn't particularly a podcast of sorts. It was actually for my Road to Planche series that I've just started here on YouTube. Something that I'm going to be committing to for this year is developing the planche, a skill that I'm yet to achieve. And I reached out to Dan and I was like, mate, can I ask you some questions about your own planche journey? Because obviously Dan is on the larger side and he's had much of the same struggles. So that was what our conversation revolved around mainly, but ultimately we ended up just having a nice general chat. Now, if you don't know who Dan is, FitnessFAQs, as I said, he is essentially the granddad of calisthenics here on YouTube. Dan's been making videos for, I think, probably around a decade. He's been a practitioner, he's been a trainee when it comes to calisthenics for definitely way over a decade, and he's the person who I actually first found and started learning from when I started getting into calisthenics. So he's been a massive influence to me of creating content and a lot of the training that I do, and I'm sure he's been a massive influence to hundreds of thousands of people as well with their calisthenics journey. He's widely respected, he's achieved some incredible moves, and he's a fantastic teacher. But I think that's enough of the introduction here. I'm going to let the actual conversation that we have do the talking. But before I jump into that one, I want to ask you guys a couple of questions. Number one is there any guests that you want me to personally interview? Now, I'm very much open to suggestions. It doesn't have to be fitness related, or it doesn't even have to be bodyweight related. It could be fitness related in a different sort of niche as such. So we could do bodybuilding, gymnastics, dancing, powerlifting, literally anything. I think there is a lot of insightful information to pull from different disciplines that we can also apply to our own practice. And furthermore than that, it doesn't need to be fitness in general. There's more to life than just training, and there's plenty of interesting conversations that we can have and we can take away. Let me know in the comment section down below if you have a recommendation, somebody you want to hear from. Number two is you can also listen to this podcast, not just here on YouTube, but you can also listen to it on Apple Podcasts and on Stitcher. I'll link to those in the description down below, and I'll be working on getting the Spotify one set up as well. So, enough rambles. Without further ado, let's jump into this conversation a little bit of the way through, and I really hope you guys enjoy. Take it easy.
Just before our call, I just watched your the video you're talking about, that 15-minute one, just to get up to speed. That's classic, man. Yeah.
The latest one.
Yeah. It just it blows your mind when you're like, I was doing this 5 years ago. You said that in the video. It's like, man, It doesn't feel like that long.
Well, so the thing was, I occasionally go back and watch your heavyweight planche video.
Oh, the classic.
Yeah.
Even like I watched that like 6 months ago. Like, geez, I could do that then.
Because that's a motivational, like, just, it's a good video to watch. And yeah, I was like, because it was coming up with the dates on it, and it was like 2014, and I was like, when does he get to the bit where he like, and then it was like 2016 or 2017 where you got the planche?
Ish, yeah, like the ups and downs of it, yeah.
That in itself was like 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah.
What's happened to time?
But I mean, like, what you say in the video was true about the progress expectations, because like you've taken a while to achieve it because you were doing so much else. I think the people that get those like six month planches are just doing that. Like, they literally do nothing else.
Yeah, they do. I was actually having to think about this literally this morning as I was making some coffee beforehand. And I was thinking about, like, you always get these comments on YouTube or hear from people like, oh, so-and-so or this person, I got the planche in 3 months. And I'm like, yeah, but, you know, what else were you doing? Was it literally like you wake up ate some cereal and then you did planche all day and then went to bed. Now that was like, that is your life for the people who achieve it in that short space of time.
Yeah, I know. But it's your responsibility to convey that info. And you do, I know, which is good. People love it, man. They like the realistic. It's like, it's not that you're not training hard, but it's like you're just aware that it's going to take time.
Yeah, I think as well, like, you know, we both do this for a job, right? But I don't think we're to the point in which we do this for a job and we're like professional athletes. Like we still have to work. We still have to do things. Like as much as anyone else watching videos, we've got other stuff going on in our lives that we got to do as well. And we've got to fit training in around that.
Yeah. It's not like because this is our job that we can just train for 6 hours on the planche. Like there's a point of diminishing returns. You got one session a day, just like everyone else for it, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean, you might have a nice new gym just like, 20 meters away. Yeah. Bits and pieces. But ultimately you just have, there's only so much time and so much energy you have as well. And I think I kind of touched on that in that video you're talking about, that when I was at uni, I was training like 2 hours a day, 6 days a week, or 2-3 hours a day, 6 days a week, doing loads of stuff. Whereas now I can't, like, I don't have the time for it. Maybe I could squeeze in if I really, really tried, but also I just wouldn't be able to recover. Like I'm destroyed today. I did 90-degree push-up session last night, and my shoulders are ruined.
Man, I relate to that. Like I've been telling you with the WhatsApp chats, was like doing this back bridge stuff. That end range shoulder flexion, you don't get like the DOMs that you get from like handstand push-up, dips, all that stuff. But you get that like deep ache where you're just weak and just sore, like not sore, but like just feel weak trying to adapt.
The flexibility stuff it hits a little bit different as well, doesn't it? Do you almost feel like you not, so it's not necessarily like you're weak, is it you're sore in the same sense as like strength training DOMs, but you almost feel like the structure feels a little bit inhibited by the work you've been doing. That's
a really good way to put it. You feel like you have to relearn the foundational motor patterns of like handstand push-ups, dips, because your movement capacity is a little bit different.
Yeah, I feel like as well, if you've done some heavy stretching, your limbs are just in different places to where they would usually be.
Yeah, and it's a bit more of a challenge for you because you're so longer limbed being taller.
Yeah, I don't think I'm that much taller than you, but for some reason, especially with like our video that we did, it looked like I was way taller. I think I'm only like a couple, I think 10 centimeters maybe in it. I think it's
only 10. That's significant, I think, for height.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, yeah, maybe. I think like, my arms are probably like 20 centimeters longer because it's got a long ass.
You're choosing the challenging goals for yourself, that's for sure, with planches and whatnot. But it's good, man. You need it.
When you started training for the planche, were you at all aware of that as a challenge? Like when you went into it, you were like, "This is going to be harder for me because I'm taller."
Oh, 100%. Yeah, definitely.
It was always something you were aware of.
Yeah, it was like a personal challenge and just like vendetta that I had. Just I want to like defy the odds. Like, yeah, I'm 183 centimeters. Yeah, I'm doing squats and I've got bigger legs, but like I just wanted to prove, I guess, to myself that I could stubbornly achieve it while doing what I guess other people didn't choose to do, if that makes sense.
Do you mean choose to do in the calisthenics community, like the weighted leg training and all that sort of stuff? Because I remember when we trained in London, like you were damn strong.
Yeah, thanks, man.
I'm a little bit more haphazard with my leg training than you are, but you're doing some elite level. I mean, you probably wouldn't class it as elite level leg lifts, but ultimately, like you're squatting big numbers. Especially for a guy who calls himself a calisthenics athlete. It's like,
yeah, I guess I've always liked doing, like having a balanced body and physique and what you can do with it, just because I was always frustrated. What always frustrated me with calisthenics was people will see it, they'll be like, oh, that's really impressive, but this person probably doesn't do squats, or this person can't lift X amount with, this certain exercise. It's just like trying to fight for calisthenics and be like, okay, you can still do cool stuff with your body and have some mass elsewhere and strength.
I feel like the the attack would be like, oh, this is all you do. You only do the bodyweight stuff. So like, okay, of course you're good at that, but you can't do anything else. But actually, in reality, like, obviously, yeah, training legs is a little bit different. You have to really put the time into that. But I'm sure if you were to go do like some military press, some bench press or something, you'd be able to put up some good numbers for somebody who only does bodyweight training.
Because I mean, if you have a foundation of size and just competence with those gross movement patterns, you can have no problem. You just have to teach your body how to do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I mean, I like doing that because then you get, I guess, the instant respect from people that don't know, and it draws them into the calisthenics world. Because I think that if someone sees someone that's really mobile, they'll be like, oh, it's because they don't have muscle, or, you know, there's always something to drag something down.
Yeah. Especially with the flexibility sort of side of things. I think if you see somebody like Judy Mufu, who's jacked and lifts ridiculous weight, and then also just does chair splits as well.
Yeah.
Like it's just crazy to see. Like it's one of those things that just, as you said, he's got so many factors down that it kind of blows your mind a little bit that somebody's able to do that.
Exactly, because you're doing this for so many years, you can actually appreciate what goes into developing that. Because it's hard enough to get one, like it's hard enough to be mobile, but then have some muscle as well. Like it's a lot of work.
And he does tricking and all sorts of things. I'm like, damn, it's a lot of talent.
But he also lives on a farm with a massive compound gym, so he loves it.
Yeah, he does. I get the feeling he just sort of like chucks weight around and does crazy stuff every day.
I remember watching him when I was like just starting, like 17, 18 years old, and he was just going spastic with it then too.
Yeah, I feel like Judy's confident. Like I can watch it for a little bit, but if I watch it too much, I kind of like, it's
a bit too much to handle. Yeah. Especially when he was doing those videos like a few years ago where he was doing like all those, it's like those ammonia like.
Oh yeah, it's like sniffing stuff.
Dude,
mad bastard.
Yeah.
Have you ever tried any of those?
No, I haven't. No, probably. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if that'd be
Planche again if you did one of them.
Haven't done one in so long. Just whip that out and just smash it.
Powerlifting meets planche training.
Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one, actually.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. So obviously at the moment your focus is more on flexibility.
Yeah, and that's the main goal, because like at this stage, the next few products that we're going to release are going to be concerning mobility goals. So you know what it's like, man. Like as a teacher, you just want to be able to practice what you preach. Like even though you could fundamentally explain all the concepts, the science, there's just something that you need to demonstrate it to get that full, I guess, buy-in from your students.
Yeah, and I've always had this conversation because obviously I've learned a lot from Emmett, and people's usual response to Emmett is like, oh, but Emmett doesn't train these things very often, and it's like, well, yeah, he doesn't, but he has done in some degrees and stuff. He understands the struggle, and I think that's what training it does teach, is if you don't spend time doing the thing that you're going to teach, you never have any appreciation for what it is that you're trying to do. It's like I although flexibility is kind of the thing that I share on YouTube, I don't do much of the martial arts sort of flexibility because I don't have appreciation for martial arts. Like I don't understand well enough to really communicate that and like understand the requirements from it. So I feel like you putting yourself as not necessarily the guinea pig, but just putting the time in doing the work, you then understand what's required and you can teach it better. And I think that there'll be little things that you're going to pick up on having, definitely you haven't come from the best genetic background as well, which is another massive thing when it comes to the people on YouTube, especially the flexibility side of things. You kind of log in and it's like, okay, there's some 14-year-old girl who says you can get splits in 5 minutes. And I'm like, yeah, that's cool, but
yeah,
it doesn't work like
that. So how do you get this position? You just do it.
Yeah,
it's like it's a bit more involved than that, but I love what you're saying, man. It's like you have to do it to see what works, and also more importantly to see what doesn't work. Because like I think with this day and age, with the internet, you go on any social media platform, there's going to be 50 variations of the one thing. Our role is to find what works, absolutely master these movements, understand them very, very well, and progress over time.
So how do you feel about that? Because obviously this is something that I've been thinking about a lot, is the social media like social media fitness versus like what actually works. Like do you find yourself, you know, do you get drawn in by those people posting all these crazy variations, or do you find yourself having to reiterate the same ones and be like, no guys, look, the basics work.
Oh, that's a good question.
Stuff, be consistent.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be lying if I said I wasn't guilty of titling things or approaching things in a way to draw people in, because I mean, you would not have a viable business and living if you didn't. But I'd like to think that when people come in, I give them the actual substance. So if it's a program or something like that, I like to incorporate what works and really drill that home, and trying not to get swayed by too much variation.
No, I think that's fine. You know, as you're quite right in saying, you've got to play the game with social media stuff. Like at the end of the day, if you're putting out good content but you don't have something that's going to be eye-catching, actually have people watch it, then it's kind of useless to some degree. Because
it's like, I mean, if people with less credibility, knowledge, skin in the game are using these tactics and teaching the people that are impressionable, hell, I'm going to use every tactic I can and back it up with decade of experience and, you know, the knowledge that I want to share. So I know you do the same thing too.
I do my best. I think it's good, and I think people are never going to be upset if they click on a video and it's like a kind of, not a clickbaity title, but just a dramatic title, and in the end that was
dramatic.
It's dramatic. The only, don't do this or you'll lose all your gains.
Yeah. Your body's going to fall off in one day.
Oh man.
Yeah, imagine Tom starting in fitness now. Like, you've never done anything, you want to learn calisthenics, you log on the internet. Would it be easier or harder now?
If I wanted to learn calisthenics specifically, if I wanted to like lift weights and do the general fitness stuff, I think I'd be back to the same place I was when I was doing that, which was just like the bro days of pre-workout, drop set bicep curls, all of that sort of stuff.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with a bit of that. It's okay. Don't tease anyone.
There's time and place for it. I mean, 100% it would be easier because there's just so much quality information out there. I feel like yourself as well. Like, obviously, I watched you when I first started learning calisthenics, so you know, there's that. But I think generally, you know, from yourself, from calisthenic movements, from people like Gabo, Red Delta, like there's so many people out there, but also that so many people also makes it hard to then discern like what is the right. I feel like there's a general consensus between people.
Yeah, but then there's like a nuance with like programming variations, and I think that can get people tripped up sometimes.
Yeah, certainly, and I think the Reddit community is somewhat to blame for this, because they go like, obviously the Reddit community is great, and I spend a lot of time in Reddit Bodyweight Fitness, but they go so far into the detail, into the weeds of like the questions, the sort of things that they ask on there, that it's almost like it's counterproductive. Sometimes you just need to do the thing and do it consistently and not worry too much about the nuance of it.
That's right. I mean, it's the advice that I'd give to people is understand principles. You get that, and then like you can just apply it to everything. Like, if you understand the basic principles of progressive overload, you can apply that to mobility training. You can apply that to calisthenics. You can apply that to just weight training.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just do a little bit more than you did the last time.
Oh, I actually know who that's from. There's a lot of drama with that. Is it Greg? Greg Doucette?
Is that?
Yeah, I think that's the name. Yeah.
Oh my god, that guy is crazy.
See, we're doing it wrong. We need to have a more frequent upload schedule, like 3 times a day, just commenting on drama.
I have no idea how is there just like a lack of drama? Maybe we need to start some drama in the calisthenics.
Yeah, see, that's the problem. There needs to be more beef. There needs to be like Mayweather versus Conor McGregor version calisthenics.
Do you know what? Actually, somebody commented on this. Have you ever watched Shredded Sports Science? James Linko, he's an English guy.
Yeah. He made a video on me. Someone sent it, so I sussed him out.
Oh, nice. Oh, yeah, he did make a video on you. And he actually commented in that video. He was like, the quality of content in the calisthenics community is way higher than the quality of content in other fitness communities. He wasn't sure what the reason for that was, but he just said like the people who are presenting information generally present less bullshit information than like in the generic fitness community.
I think that like generalization can be applied just to the temperament of people that do calisthenics. Like from my experience, always really friendly, welcoming. There doesn't tend to be too much like toxicity or negativity, but like you go into a bodybuilding gym, you don't get that like, I guess, welcoming community aspect that you would have at like a park, like a calisthenics park.
Yeah, I think it's definitely, I would say the same thing. Every time I've turned up to some train at some bars, other people have always been like, oh, give this a go and do it.
I wonder why that is, because you wouldn't go to a gym where someone's like, oh man, I'm going to teach you how to grow your biceps bigger. They wouldn't go out the blue to help you. Whereas if someone saw another person struggling with a front lever, they'd be like, do your eccentrics, grab a band, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's probably, I don't want to make a generalization here. We're not saying all bodybuilders are not nice, but there's definitely, I think maybe, do you reckon there's a bit more of an ego thing in the lifting community, because it's more about like who can lift the most weight or who is the biggest. I mean, there's definitely some of that in the calisthenics community, but I think it's maybe less prevalent.
Possibly, yeah. It seems like it's more outcome focused with, say, calisthenics compared to building muscle approach. So it's not like me versus, I don't know, because you could still compare both, like you said. I'm not 100% sure.
But maybe because calisthenics is a little bit more of an individual like training, because you're determined by your own body to some extent, right?
Yeah, and it's probably harder to compete in calisthenics as well, with so many different, like it's like height affects it so much, weight affects it so much. It's probably a bit easier to have comparison with other activities. Because like you doing a planche and me doing, I mean, not the best example, but you know what I'm trying to say. Yeah.
You're still pretty heavy and so.
Yeah, we're both similar, but yeah.
So what happened to the planche?
What do you mean? What happened to the planche?
I feel like I was watching FitnessFAQs back in the day, and I was like, this guy is a planche beast, just cracking them out, and then all of a sudden there was no planche anymore.
Well, Planche Pro was released, and I synthesized my long-term knowledge into something that could help other people on their road to planche. So I ticked that box. I was achieved my goal with the straddle planche, and I've put it on the back burner.
Put it on the back burner. So how long was it for you? Because I know you obviously had, anyone who wants to see, go watch Dan's video on his heavyweight planche journey. It's a great video anyway, and obviously countless other content that you've got on it. But like, how was it from when you were like, okay, I'm gonna do the planche, to when you got the planche?
It's hard to say, because I had the ups and downs of losing motivation, not being consistent, stop training for it, picking it up again later. I think that's a very common thing for most people. So that combined with also getting injured during the process, like a wrist injury, which is also on YouTube for people that want to suss that out.
And that was you were lifting, weren't you? And the bar kind of caught with your thumb.
I was on the wrist, so I was doing front squats, and then I went to rack the bar, and then one side got in the rack, the other side didn't, and I caught the weight halfway down, and long story short, bony bruising and a ligament, pretty serious like ligament tear. So obviously planche is very wrist heavy, so
yeah, it's the sort of thing that would like really put a spanner in the works.
Yeah, but like to answer your question, I'd say in my position, it took me around that 2 to 3 years to achieve it because I was juggling so many other things. I was doing heavy weighted calisthenics. I was doing leg training and also trying to do the planche. So it took me 3 years because of trying to juggle so many things, initial lack of consistency because of not achieving results quick enough, and also getting injured.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, getting injured is the best way to make no progress.
Exactly. Yeah, it's tough, isn't it? Because then you're dealing with that injury and also the psychological component of having to like rebuild from a lower point than where you were.
Yeah, knowing you're gonna have to start out as not a beginner again, but yeah, gonna have to like take that journey again. But I guess it gives you the opportunity to do things right to some extent.
Yeah.
Which I always felt about. So I had an adductor tear from trying to do chair splits, watching too much Jujimufu.
Was this just recently?
Yeah, like probably about 6 weeks ago.
Oh damn, dude, that sucks.
Yeah, if you want to see like quite a good bail from some chair splits, like I'll put it on Insta. Or I'll
Yeah,
send you
show me. I want to see it. Yeah.
Do you want to see it now?
Yeah, why not?
Or yeah, I'll send it to you. But basically, I was just doing some splits on probably a somewhat dodgy setup at the end of the day. It was, I was using these IKEA sliders, and I was sliding out into splits, and they were kind of like jolting and moving, and just my splits were feeling good that day, and I was like, you know what, I'll give it a go. I'll see what happens, and then I felt in the hip. I felt that like it wasn't like a tear, it wasn't like a pop. It was like I could feel the muscle stretching, but in a not so good way.
Did you feel it like deep up into like near like your groin belly button region? Like was it like that kind of sensation up there?
No, it wasn't. It wasn't in the abdomen. It was just like localized. It was like adductor magnus sort of thing.
Okay, good,
Yeah. And I sort of like I managed to like hop out of it. Didn't really hurt at the time, but then like in the evening, I couldn't even walk up the stairs for like the first few days. It was
of course, because like the adductors, like one of the adductors is a big extensor. So if it was the magnus, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, well, it was like weirdly enough, I didn't have too much pain with my legs in abduction or going out. It was like if I was to stand and do a hamstring curl, that would have been like the most pain.
Right. Yeah. Damn.
Yeah. I think it actually came from because I've just sort of set the Nordic as a bit of a second sort of goal. I've been enjoying training it, and I was like, I've never actually got this one like full range. So I've been doing quite a lot of work on that, and I don't know if there was like some fatigue there that would have affected the middle split or something. It was basically just being dumb.
It was. It's like any injury. It was just too much load too soon, and especially with your adductors in that elongated range, if it was like the chair slipped a little bit, that quick contraction, it's brutal.
Yeah. So that was not so fun.
No.
But what now you can like you obviously. If you'd injured yourself, you then got the experience of all your training beforehand, you'd be like, okay, well, if I was to do this again, because you kind of got the opportunity, and like, what would I do differently?
Yeah, I mean, it's a hard pill to swallow, but you've got time just to reflect. And that's the best time to be like, I did this wrong. I could do this better. Yeah, we all go through that.
If you were to train the planche again, what would you do differently?
Not train legs. So seriously. Really, man, it's because you look back on it now and you're like, I probably took 6 to 8 months longer than necessary just because of that simple fact.
Mm-hmm.
So my advice would be those that are doing leg training, don't do hypertrophy focused, high volume, girth building training. Just keep it low key. Just prioritize the planche. In addition to that, planche would have been a lot easier if not going so hard on other pushing movements.
Okay, were you training a lot of like handstand push-up, 90-degree push-up at the time?
At the time was, yeah.
Could you do the 90-degree push-up before you could do the planche? I feel like that's a yes.
Yeah. So the bent arm strength always came easier for me, and still does actually, than the straight arm stuff.
Okay. If you were to think back, like what sort of level were you at I guess maybe at the time that you had the planche, but then also maybe in the time when you started, was there like a big jump between for the sort of the bent arm strength side of things? Like how many handstand push-ups, how many?
I was always pretty strong with the bent arm stuff when, seriously starting the planche training. So like, no issues doing like 5x5 with the deficit handstand push-ups, kind of like, full range.
Oh, okay, like chest to box sort of thing. Or
essentially, yeah, and weighted dips, like 5x5 with like around 70-ish, 80 kilos.
So that's like close to body weight for 5x5.
But I guess the takeaway for people listening is like, there's a certain point where that's like excessive. Like, you don't need that much foundational strength for planche. So my regret was trying to continue pushing that to such a high level, because think about it, it's just going to fatigue you locally and centrally, which is just wasted training juice, so to speak. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I mean, if you're training both at the same time.
Yeah.
But also, I think probably you're emphasizing the one thing that a lot of people, and I certainly made the mistake of, was like not having that foundational strength. So when I first started coming to calisthenics, I'd been lifting weights for a couple of years. So I actually had a pretty good foundation of like, some bodybuilding, some powerlifting stuff, which meant my bent arm was pretty strong. And to begin with, I saw some great progress with planche, and then it just started to taper off, and it just got worse. And that was because I went straight to specialization, and I didn't actually spend much time with just like preparation. So I was just taking all the last 2 or 3 years of weight training, and once that kind of fizzled out, that's when I kind of hit that plateau and just kind of a brick wall when it came to planche training. And that's when I then ended up doing just some other things, because I was like, oh, this is never going to happen. I'm tall, I'm blah, 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 all these other excuses. Whereas in reality, it was like I just didn't spend enough time on basic stuff, really.
Yeah, that's what most people do. It's like that first 12 months should be just on pull-ups, push-ups, dips, handstands, handstand push-ups, maybe some muscle-ups in there to a certain extent. But then,
But Dan, I've seen your video that says don't do a muscle-up.
Oh, I mean, well, welcome to YouTube, Tom. You'll learn a thing or two, mate.
Well,
it's a calisthenics staple, mate. It's all right.
Yeah, no, it is. You got, if you can't muscle up, then
what are you doing with your life? Yeah, if you can't muscle
up. Yeah, I think that's probably the best advice. But obviously, then like some people want to do the fun stuff, which is the specialization stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I mean, like, just pay your dues in that first year, work on the basics, get some muscle, and then you can teach it how to do the cool specialization stuff without going so hard on the foundation stuff.
Yeah. Definitely, the sort of the more excess fluff that you can take out and just keep it specific. Definitely seems to benefit. And again, like that, I made that same mistake when I was training it beforehand. I was doing planche, handstand push-up, one-arm chin-up, all at the same time.
What have you noticed with like the calisthenics bodyweight community recently? Like, do you feel that people like doing sets and reps with weights, or do you feel people are doing more skill-based stuff? What do you see as the most popular these days?
I feel like it is more skills-based stuff. I think handstands become majorly popular as well.
Yeah.
Which is great. I think handstands is it's a fun thing to learn. I think the 2-arm handstand as well is very accessible to pretty much everyone, given a bit of time and practice, and then you can just start playing with things, and it's kind of cool. But I'd say I think the skill stuff is still pretty big. I think obviously the planche and that side of things is big, but I think you don't see it so much on like YouTube or stuff, because kind of it's been and done in terms of the videos that have been made on it. It's like there's only so much, like so many talking about planche progressions and all sort of stuff, that videos that people can make, and like once one's done that's pretty good, then kind of people tend to like leave it, I think.
Yep.
So I think it's one of those things that you don't seem to hear much about, but people are still working on. I think as well, like in the Reddit Bodyweight Fitness stuff, because obviously they've got the recommended routine, but they've got that kind of more analytical approach to training. It seems to be something that is a bit perpetrated in there. It's like you have your vertical push and your vertical pull, horizontal push, horizontal. That's how they, if you were to read through the Reddit, that's how they lay out their training. So I think people get the impression that you want to train everything at the same time.
I see. And that's probably the most popular resource for people getting started.
Yeah. So I think when I was to look through comments or I'd interact with people, that's probably the most common thing. They're like, oh, but I need to balance out my shoulders for this and that and make sure I'm doing. And I'm like, yeah, you do in like the broad picture of your overall training. But for those specific periods, like yourself when you were working at Planche, I'm sure like all you were doing was, your planche work.
Like it depends on what you really want to get. Like there's a difference between beginners and that specialization.
Yeah, exactly. So when you're doing that, as you said, that general work, the handstand push-up, pull-ups, dips, rows, etc. That's when you get your broad foundation. You do a bit of everything. You build up general strength, muscle mass, and then when you do specialization, you don't need to worry about always training your handstand push-up while you're doing your planche because
So do you think it's our job to keep teaching the fact that things need to be phased in and out? Like you just don't want to keep adding more and more and more as you learn more and more and more?
Yeah, I think so. I don't know. That's a really hard one to communicate though because it's quite individual.
Yeah, I know. Based on so many factors, exactly.
Yeah, it's like, well, how much training have you done in the past? Like, what sort of stuff are you doing outside of your training? Like, are you doing a sport? Are you really busy? Have you got a family? And that's all going to start eating into the things that you can actually do.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm trying to think. I forgot what I was going to say.
You're going to say that's why they should take up coaching with you for an individualized, highly tailored program from an expert in the field. Actually,
to be fair, that's why I think that because your programs do that really well. You have single goal programs. Really,
exactly,
at the end of the day.
And I'm glad you identified that because that's why I do it as opposed to a single.
It's only just clicked. Genuinely, only just clicked. I was like,
oh man.
Oh damn! Of course, Dan does. There's the lever pro, the planche. Like,
there's a method to his madness, and he's going to teach people how to do side splits, and they're going to achieve it because they're going to work on one goal. Who would have thought?
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's like you can get all these movements independently the more specialized they are, and then the actual maintenance of them isn't as hard. I'm sure that your mobility stuff, for example, you don't have to work as hard on that as it took you to acquire it in the first place.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I actually didn't stretch pretty much. I say I didn't stretch. I did like very minimal sort of stretching that I'd do as part of a bit of handstands for like a year, and just to see like what would happen.
Yeah, right.
And I didn't really lose any flexibility. Like positions felt less comfortable.
Yeah.
But the actual, like, if I could squeeze out still the same range of motion that I had beforehand, I think I maybe lost about 5 centimeters on middle splits. Probably it wasn't quite as perfectly flat on front splits, but actually didn't change too much. It was kind of interesting.
Do you attribute that to you using like active mobility methods, like weighted movements, controlling yourself into the movement as opposed to purely passive? Like that would have been the majority of your practice, right? Would be like more movement through range.
Yeah. I mean, it definitely, like, I started off with just the passive stuff. It was like, when I first started, I couldn't touch my toes, and I was like, I should stretch this. So I did like just a stretch every day, and then I'd go on YouTube, and then I'd find another stretch, and then it like eventually became this like 30-45 minute sort of just passive routine that I'd do each night. And then I discovered the loaded stuff, and that's, I maybe saw the progress that it took me a year to make. I made in like a few months.
Nice.
with the loaded stretching. So it was definitely it was way better. I don't know if that's what kept it for the long term though. I think I stopped stretching after doing it for like 3 years.
Regardless of the modality, you had a lot of like input during that time, whether it was passive or active. You were just doing it.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm sure maybe if you didn't, I'd be really interested to see where your planche is now. Like just because obviously you've still kept up your general strength training. You're obviously you're more focused on your flexibility stuff.
Yeah.
But I'd be interested to see how much.
Don't call me out, Tom. Don't call me out, bro. we're probably honestly an advanced tuck or something like that. It wouldn't be great, I'm sure, man. It's not. Yeah.
Maybe the planche isn't a fair skill because the planche is very specialized.
I can still front lever. Does that count?
Yeah, I mean that's a like front lever. Probably handstand push up. You can still bang out.
Yeah. I'm sweet with those. Don't worry. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's an interesting one, like what you can keep and what you lose. Like the one arm. You obviously were training the one arm handstand. We trained in London with it.
Yeah. That's awesome skill. But like I told you, I hit a ceiling with that particular movement because I didn't have the mobility to do it justice in terms of like you're a lot more able to explain this than me, but it's like when it comes to hand balancing stuff, the more stacked your joints are, the easier time you're going to have for harder movements. And like with my one arm, because I didn't have that good shoulder flexion, thoracic extension, just having that lack of mobility means your body rotates. And then when your body rotates, you got to use more strength. And then when you're trying to use more strength, it makes the balance harder. So it was no good for me.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I feel you there because my shoulders still aren't good in hand balance stands. They're acceptable.
Acceptable, yeah. Like a circus press would be like, is okay.
Yeah, it's okay.
Not bad.
So I definitely like people who can do maybe like a tuck one arm, for example. Yeah, like that. Like I would. That's just impossible for me at the moment.
Yeah.
But other stuff I can hack my way around. Have you been training the one arm since you've been doing more of the flexibility stuff?
I haven't, no. I've just been purely focusing on this and just general calisthenics compounds because it's fatiguing when you're trying to push the envelope with mobility stuff. Like it's very taxing. In addition to the content creation,
it's weirdly taxing. It's not the same as you don't finish a session like you'd finished a heavy strength session.
Yeah.
You feel wiped, but you feel the same. You feel the same kind of that fatigue feeling, but minus the pump or the rest.
Yeah, minus all the good stuff. So you just get all the neural fatigue. And as you were just saying before, it's like you kind of feel a bit like loose and like a bit floppy, even if you do use active methods. Your body's just not used to it yet.
Yeah. Have you seen Harry Potter?
Yeah.
You know that? Do you know? I think it's in the third film, Chamber of Secrets. It's the second film, Chamber of Secrets, and Harry breaks his arm, and then he does the spell to like get the bones back, and then his arm's just like.
Yeah. That's exactly how I feel pretty much multiple days a week.
Your limbs like.
Yeah. It's like my shoulders can do this. I've got articulations. Whoa, this feels cool. So your goals moving forward, planche is the focus. What else are you doing in your training otherwise?
So I'm still doing quite a bit of one arm stuff because I've the last 3 years have been a grind, and then now I'm doing like the fun stuff. I can just play a little bit with the one arm, which is
fantastic. Great. Good.
So I'm still like I basically a lot of probably the training sessions for the past year have been a bit painful to do, and so now I'm like enjoying my training. Technically, I should be giving it up a little bit for planche stuff.
Yeah,
but it's enjoyable, so it's like a bit of a struggle there.
That was going to be my next question. How do you find in this short period of focusing on both, has one affected the other? Do you notice a bit of a difference?
Yeah, I feel like learning the one arm has made my upper body just generally way stronger for lots of things. Is
that because you were doing like you were practicing like shoulder press as well, which feeds into the planche in some respect? Were you working on that?
I got 5 shoulders. That was the as I was like building up this, and I was like, well, kind of.
It's good, man. That's really good.
Yeah, I was surprised. Like I've never had a pump doing handstand presses.
Oh damn! Now you're entering, bodybuilding territory
like,
for
like hypertrophy
press.
of shoulder presses.
That's the next program. Like 2 people will buy it.
Well, it's a big time under tension move.
Yeah, true.
But I think definitely. But actually, when I was first training the one arm, probably I've always struggled with handstand push-ups. I've never made much progress with them. And then maybe 6 months into training the one arm, I suddenly could do 1 or 2 handstand push-ups in a set. And I hadn't been training them. It was just because the traps, the shoulder structure in general got stronger from doing fingertip support.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And I think maybe like when you went into one arm, you probably already had that base that it didn't really affect you too much. But yeah, I saw a massive just general strength improvement. And I think again, like I hadn't even trained planche, and I gave planche a go after probably a year and a half of doing one arm, and it was stronger.
Nice. Good.
Without training it because of the one arm. So I think it helps.
It's helped, but probably the concurrent trying to concurrently do both and progress with both. You won't have that same result. I'm sure.
I think it's just helped with like capacity as well, because obviously I was doing 8 to 10 hours a week of handstands. That's a lot of time on the traps on the anterior delt.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of general work capacity there. So now I'm doing maybe like 30 to 45 minutes 4 times a week. So it's way less, like a quarter of what I was doing beforehand.
The handstand is the ultimate travel exercise, isn't it? Like you could be going to bloody airports and being that guy if you wanted to be. You could always get it done.
Yeah, I think that's, and it's, although it's more pushing focused, I feel like I get, because of the traps are so heavily used, I feel like I get a reasonable like full upper body workout from doing it.
So even forearms, like if you're pushing it hard, you like finger flexors and stuff. It's pretty intense in the forearms.
It's heavy. So yeah, I'm doing that, and I'm still like, I'm transitioning to the specialization of planche. So I'm still working 90-degree push-up, handstand push-up quite a lot. Sick.
Yeah. Oh yes, you're spending a bit of time on that to, in the hopes of giving you that base for the planche progress.
Yeah, I feel like you said the bent arm stuff came easily to you, whereas I've kind of found the reverse for pushing. So
right.
Like my straight arm is always kind of I think probably because I've just trained it more.
I think so, yeah.
Especially in the past, I've always found that it's not necessarily come easy, but like it's kind of been there, and the bent arm's been a bit of a grind. But I've just found that like working on 90-degree push-up, because it kind of has that lean aspect to it. You know, when you're holding the bent arm planche at the bottom.
Yep.
And then even doing some like planche holds with like slightly bent arms, so it's not perfectly straight, but it sort of brings in that muscular system, and you're able to just like, I don't know, I can't quite bring in the chest as much as I would like in straight arm. And as soon as I bend the arms, it's like that little bit more intermuscular coordination that I can just hold.
Nice.
So it seems to be helping out at least, and then I think probably the next 6 months to a year will be like, okay, all in on the planche, and let's see what happens.
Is it are you trying to take it to the full planche? That's the question.
Nah, it's not even in the realms of possibility.
Yeah. It's funny, I'll get on my comment section sometimes. Someone must have like watched my road to straddle or something, and then they'll comment on one of my more recent stuff. It's like, oh, Daniel, how's the planche going? You got the full planche yet? So I think people think I'm still battling away at the planche, but that was shelved a long time ago, boys.
I feel like that. I wanted to chat to you a bit about that, because I feel I never got the answer. Like, what happened? You sort of like, the planche just dropped off the face of the planet. Obviously, you stopped training it. But
my goal was to do a 5-second straddle planche, and with full honesty, just the amount of effort, time, and commitment it took for me to get that 5 seconds, it really pushed me, and I would have had to given up something which I wasn't willing to do, like stop training legs so much, stop doing other calisthenic stuff, in order to get that full planche in a timely manner. Like if I kept going with the other workload and tried to do full planche, it would have probably taken an additional year or two to get there. So I mean, it's like everything.
Do you reckon you could have got full? Do you reckon you could have got it?
So I don't like answering these questions, because like that, because if I was with the same approach, I probably couldn't have got it. No, I don't think I'd have to give up something to get the full.
Great.
And if I was to keep going as I wouldn't have got it. No way. But I mean, like, I just want to say with that, it's like you need to have your goals, be satisfied when you achieve them, and then also weigh up like the opportunity cost. Like, man, for what I wanted to convey and learn from the planche journey, I got it. Like, I'm able to teach others how to do the same thing, but like the time commitment and resources required to get a full one, it's not really something I want to commit to. It's like,
no, I get that. how did you, from a personal perspective, having worked so long to achieve like one skill, one thing, was it easy for you to give that up and be like, I've achieved what I set out to do, like now's the next one?
Initially, no, but then after a while, you realize, oh, I'm trying to do this and push this goal still and want to work on other stuff. Why am I not improving? Might be that planche you're trying to do, mate. It might be time to let that go. So answer to that is initially yes, but then eventually once I started to do it like once a week and then every second week, I'm like, oh, I'm feeling a lot fresher. My recovery markers are a lot better. I'm seeing progress. Oh, yeah. Then I realized, yep, listen to the advice that you give other people and actually apply it yourself.
Okay. And I was like, you know, you were happy that you'd achieved it once and that was it.
Yeah, because I mean, I like I said, I set the goal. I personally achieved it. I worked on my other goal, which was synthesizing a program to help others achieve it. I ticked that box. I retired from it, so to speak. For now, I'll never say never to picking it up again in the future, because it's like you said, it's an awesome skill to work on, strength skill.
Yeah, I think you're right though. I'd say I'd equate it to, you know, maybe like the one-arm handstand.
Yeah.
Or something. It's just, you know, that highly specialized.
But I reckon in the future, like working on things that are going to improve it without doing it directly first. So my example for that would be something that I haven't pursued in the past is like a stalder press or getting really good at press handstands. If I was to work on that, I would develop straight arm scapular strength, pushing strength in the same pattern. And then if I get the taste for that strength, then I can be like, ooh, get into the planche with a better base than just going from doing back bridge for the last year to being like, I want to do planche.
Honestly, you're saying train back bridge for a year, and I'm like, I would honestly want to kill myself. Like that's a nightmare of training.
Man, you know what it's like when you've been doing something for so long. You want to make your training fresh and focus on different goals. Like, okay, what's the next thing for me? Do 100 kilo weighted chin up. All right, do 10 one-arm chin-ups. It's the point, man. It's like you gotta, I don't know. It's like for me these days, it's less about...
You need breadth as well.
Yeah, breadth, exactly. And like for me, I get more joy out of the teaching than trying to do 15 of something instead of just mastery of a respectable amount.
Yeah, I feel like that as well. I feel like the chasing numbers is a bit of a grind that I'm not particularly motivated by.
Yeah. I mean, each their own, because I think, sorry to interrupt you, but I think with you in particular, it's like your gift as well is teaching other people in a really succinct way. It's like, not to take away from people that are incredibly strong, but there's like so many people that can do 5-second straddle planche. It's not special by itself, but it's the fact that you've achieved a certain skill and you can actually teach it as well.
Yeah, I've been withholding making any sort of like proper planche content or tutorial or anything like that because I'm like, I can't do the thing. When I can do the thing, maybe I'll make a video on it.
Yeah, but I mean, even still, if you did like, even if you showed some type of progress or transformation relative to your situation, people love that stuff. They always love those videos.
Yeah, it's true. Well, we'll see in 6 months, eh?
Oh yeah. Next thing you know, he's just going to be doing like a full planche. He's just like humble brag.
Yeah, it's just like kind of that blue pizza moment. It's like, actually, here's one that I made earlier.
Yeah.
I've had the straddle planche for years now. I've been keeping it on the down low.
You're just waiting for it to peak in popularity. There's not a lockdown. Everyone does calisthenics again. Oh man. You guys had it, on a side note, had it very tough with training circumstances amidst things being restricted and closed in UK.
Yeah, I mean, like gyms were closed for. We haven't. I actually went to the gym for my second session this year at the gym yesterday. So what's that, May? Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that's tough. That just not a change of environment. Yeah, it's tough.
To be fair, I really enjoyed training outside, and it's a different sort of enjoyable to training outside in Australia because we don't have your weather. But like actually having because for me, I couldn't train indoors. That wasn't enough separation, as you talked about, like that change in theory. But if I went outside and I trained, it was fine.
Yeah.
So I got really used to training outside. You know, whether it was like -Celsius, I just like light a fire, sit by like a washing machine drum, and let this turn into like a fire pit. So I probably look like a homeless person, like sat outside doing handstands next to this fire
with some fingerless gloves or something.
Yeah, like. But it was like a separate challenge in and of itself.
Yeah.
Is just to train outside, and like if it was raining or whatever, like still get the session done, still get the training done.
Nice.
Which I really like that. And I went to the gym yesterday, and it was like loud.
You would have been so overstimulated, weren't you? You like there was all this banging and stuff happening, music.
The one thing I noticed the most was that it was really hot. I think I've just got used to training outside and it's being cold.
Yeah.
And like everyone was walking around in like, you know, a couple of layers, and I was dying in a t-shirt. I was like, why is this so hot in here?
Yeah, man.
But yeah, needless to say, I haven't done much leg training, which probably will help the planche. But obviously with the adductor strain, that was kind of stopped anyway. But I was only really focusing on the Nordic. So
yeah.
There may be some weightlifting working its way in, but it's pretty minimal for the moment.
Just keep it tame. Don't go too hard with the planche, as per my advice.
Well, I have a bit of a natural restriction in the sense that I just haven't trained legs for a long time.
Tom's got a natural aversion to all things leg training.
Yeah, exactly. I can't train it hard even if I wanted to.
Oh man, that's just, I don't know. It's just something special about doing it and doing the bodyweight stuff. Having that, like, you don't get that kind of intensity of push because the muscle groups are so large in your legs. I feel that it gives you this extra level. Bit of bro science here, but I feel like it gives that extra bit of a push or just awareness of how hard you can go with other stuff.
I don't think it's bro science though. There's a mental restriction aspect. Like obviously you think about like the 4-minute mile when that was first broken, and then like nobody had done it, and then the next year like I think 15 people did it.
Yeah.
And it's that like, and I do think that there's certainly an aspect to training, because when we train to failure, like we're not actually training to failure. Your brain stops way before your muscle reach. I think it's about, you deplete about 60 or 70% of your ATP stores, and that's when your brain will cut things off. It won't actually let
it's like a natural protective mechanism.
Yeah, so most people actually, you know, it's very subjective what pushing yourself is in the gym.
Yeah, and that's a whole other story, I'm sure. With your recent return to the gym, you just look around at the level of exertion and effort, and you just sometimes wish that people would just be training a bit harder. Maybe they're not tracking what they're doing.
Yeah. I don't know if it's just like just people just rock up and do, and it's the sort of people who do see not much changing over a period of time as well. I don't know if do you follow at all Jeff Nippard?
I do, yeah. He's excellent in that bodybuilding powerlifting world. Absolutely great.
Oh, he is. Did you watch his, I think, a fairly recent video, which was what does 0 reps in reserve look like?
I saw it was posted, but I skipped that on my subscription feed. Hopefully no one does that for my content.
I could give it a watch, and I was like, actually, this is a pretty good, like, he had a really good, an example way of like, okay, this is what it looks like if you're training to failure, and nice. This is what it looks like with like.
So would he would have genuinely went to failure? Was he like for that video?
No, he was sort of like, he was talking about like practical applications and examples of like how close do you need to push to failure to get some good stimulus? Like, what does actually somebody pushing close to failure look like?
Yeah.
And he sort of chose some elite level sort of people to do those comparisons on as well.
Right. I think people that are listening should understand that when we say like effort, it doesn't mean like going balls to the wall on your movements that could cause harm, like, you know, dips or something like that. It's like if you were doing some type of like isolation based work, say like bodyweight tricep extensions, you don't have to train like a pussy on a bodyweight tricep extension. It's local muscle fatigue. Yeah.
But like, I don't know, handstand push-ups chest to wall to failure, probably not the best.
Great. That's actually a really good example, because it's like there's a large skill component to that strength move. You don't want to just turn it into an incline press banana back move.
No, exactly. So yeah, failure is an interesting one. So you can definitely take it two ways. Like you can take you should push yourself in a session to every single set and every single rep. You should be going max effort.
And I think it's easier for people that just want to build muscle. Like if you just trained to failure, had no idea what you were doing, rested between sessions and progressed over time, you'd probably get better results than someone that's trying to undulating periodization and this and that for building muscle. But as you said, when it comes to strength, you need to have a more intelligent approach to see long-term gains.
Yeah. And I think as well, the muscle building things like, okay, how do I look? That's the only metric we're already going by.
Yeah.
And fatigue does that. Like going to failure will do that. But if you're trying to do strength training, you need to perform. If you're always going to failure, it's gonna go down pretty quickly. You're just going to be fatigued all the time. Especially
as a more advanced practitioner, when you fatigue big time too, because you're stronger, so you can generate more central fatigue.
Fatigue more motor units and all these sort of things. That the fatigue that you generate will be more than an amateur.
Whereas most beginners, intermediates don't even have to worry about that because they'll make progress with anything.
So just do something.
And consistently, just show up, have some fun.
Oh man, well, it's been a pleasure chatting to you. Anyway,
it's good, man.
I think we had some good conversations. So I'm gonna tie things off for the YouTube recording.
Oh no! So we're gonna get to the behind the scenes convo now. That was good, man.
Now we can slate off everyone in the fitness industry.
Yeah. We'll talk about all the gossip about calisthenic movement and etc. No, it's good. Thanks for having me.
Didn't we say we need to start some drama? I thought we mentioned that earlier on.
Yeah, we did. It's like we're growing too organically, doing things the right way. I think we need to start posting some more selfies and.
I think
drama.
You need to release a supplement line.
I think so too, with a discount code for my own company. Oh man, it was good. Cheers for the chat, Tom.
It was a real pleasure, mate. Thank you.
No worries.